My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Today is the feast of Saint John Paul II, the Great, we would add, because he was really a great saint. And the reason why 22nd of October was chosen as his feast day is because it was the day he started his pontificate in 1978. And these are the words he began his homily with. Do not be afraid to open your hearts wide to Christ. Do not be afraid. Those are words of Jesus, which he addresses to the apostles many times, in fact. Do not be afraid. And then those are the words he is also telling us today through the Pope. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to open your hearts wide to Christ. And these words were referring to the whole life of St. John Paul II up to that moment. But they would become the defining attitude to the 27 years he was Pope, leading the church. Do not be afraid to open your hearts wide to Christ. That's what he did with his whole life, and especially as Pope. And that's what we would like to also talk to our Lord about in these 10 minutes. Beginning with that idea that the great Pope saw regarding his own life. Certainly he went through lots of hardships, but he also saw those great gifts. Even those hardships, he saw them as a way of preparation for the great mission he was going to carry out in the church and in the world. So he saw his life as he himself will call it gift and mystery. So that will be the title of a book which he wrote on the 50th anniversary of his priestly ordination. He saw his life as a gift and mystery. In the first place, as a gift, everything he received, everything he experienced, he saw it as a gift from God. And that's how we should also see our life, as a gift. Everything we have, everything we are is a gift from God. Gratitude is certainly a very good attitude for a Christian. And we are grateful, like the Pope was, to his parents, to his teachers, to his colleagues, to his friends. And he was especially grateful to one of his friends, a tailor, who taught him how to pray. At least that's what he says. He knew how to pray. He had learned that from his parents' home. But there's that one person, Jan, that was his name, who taught him how to pray. And they just started praying the Holy Rosary every day. That led him to have that great devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary. And he would say that praying of a prayer that probably we've prayed it many times. We usually call those prayers that we know by heart vocal prayers, because we say them with our mouth, but we know them. They are deep in our hearts. But they should also lead us to a deeper prayer, which is what we are doing now. Speaking to Jesus, listening to him. So this was the Pope's experience. That vocal prayer that the Rosary is led him to have that deeper relationship with God. And he would then find himself praying and getting very deep in his relationship with God, because he had learned that prayer. So he was always very grateful to that friend of his for teaching him how to pray. Very simple prayer, which we can actually try and pray it every now and then. If you can do that every day, that would be fantastic. But it's especially when in this month of October, it's sort of meant to be a month of the Rosary. So it's something we can try to do, and will help us also in our relationship with God. And going back to St. John Paul II, he also saw his life as a mystery, meaning like something hidden, something left to us to discover And many times we see that in the things we like, or maybe things we are good at. In the case of John Paul II, he's a man who loved acting, he loved poetry, he loved philosophy, he loved going out, he loved the outdoors, and you see that in his life. He loved the excursions, going to the mountains, skiing. So he's a man who loved all those things that portray the greatness of the human spirit. And through that, he would also see God. But especially, he would see what God has placed in us. He's the one who has placed those yearnings, those capacities in us. And that's why we turn to him in gratitude. We want to thank him. Jesus, thank you for giving us all those qualities, all those capacities. You've given us even the gift of time so that we can do so many things. But especially, you have given us all those things so that we can enjoy them. And then so that we can use them in order to serve you and serve many other people. So we want to thank you for so many gifts. And in John Paul II, we saw he especially loved people. He made friends with everyone, maybe because he had that very lively spirit. But you could see that even after many years, in fact, when he grew like old, and there was especially that very moving moment in the year 2000. It was a great year in the church and in the world. And you had this group of people, a group of friends who went to visit him. They were childhood friends, and they went to visit him in Rome, and they were there and reminiscing the good old days. And they were there even singing some songs, and they used to sing. It was fantastic to see those people who are, like children again, there with the Pope, and he was enjoying just seeing them there, how old they had grown. He himself had grown older and couldn't speak as much. He couldn't act the way he used to act, but the way he loved them. And this came from his closeness to God. He would spend long hours before the Blessed Sacrament, he just speaking to God or just listening to him. And in fact, it was known that he would spend so much time that he would times sort of change the schedule of his visits because he needed that time. There was one of the planners for the visit he made to the United States in 1992, I think. He had made a point of saying, hey, don't show the Holy Father the door to the chapel. He was going to spend some time in the Archbishop's residence before meeting the young people. And then he had given those instructions because he knew that would change the whole schedule. Then the Pope came and just stopped right in front of the door and asked, is this the chapel? And then they had no option. They told him, yeah, Holy Father, that's the chapel. So he went there and spent time because he needed that time with Jesus so that he could then love people the way he did. We need to spend time with Jesus. That's what we are doing now. We're spending time with you, Jesus, because we love people. We not only love doing lots of other things which are good, but we love people and we would like to love them more. But in order for us to love them more, we need to spend time with you. Probably one of the most remembered photos of St. John Paul II's pontificate was that one-on-one conversation he had in 1983 with Ali Akçaa, who had attempted to assassinate him 2 years earlier. And he was there. He had forgiven him already, but he wanted to show him that he was very close to him. So he went there. He saw him and spent time with him, and that was really moving because we all find it difficult to forgive. I don't know whether I am capable of doing that. That's why I need to turn to Jesus and ask him, Lord, show me how to forgive with my whole heart. Or at least show me how to try to forgive the others, people who might have offended me. I mean, certainly no one has tried to assassinate me, and that would be something very serious. But I would like to forgive the same way that John Paul II forgave and loved people. And then at last, On that 2nd of April 2005, when he passed away, at least I remember that, there were lots of people in Rome who were there, like accompanying him. He had already been back and forth to the hospital, and they're all surrounding the St. Peter's Square, and they were praying for the Pope. And then it seems that some of the last words he spoke were, "Let me go to my Father's house." So those were his last words. Let me go to my Father's house. He had always lived in his Father's house. That's what we are doing now, praying. It's like being in our Father's house. And then that moment will be like, then we will be entering the definitive home, that's heaven. So let us ask Jesus today that he may help us to yearn for that house, to be with him, to spend time with him. And the Blessed Virgin Mary is always there, helping us to stay in the Father's house. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations which you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help to put them into practice. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.